All right. Hello, everyone. I'll be discussing the visa pathways for registered nurses. I'm Johanna Bertume-Nonato, CEO and Registered Migration Agent of Bridgeos Migration Consultancy. So I'll try to be fast because there's just so much stuff to discuss. And after this, there's a separate presentation about the registration pathways. So I'll talk about the RN occupations, if you don't know them yet in Australia. The average salary of nurses, registration pathways, just a summary of it, but Raul will be talking about it in detail, study pathways and visa options. So that's the list of the occupations for nurses here. It might be different in the Philippines, it's called differently, but in here it's very well structured. NEC means at the bottom, not elsewhere classified. So if you couldn't find it there, then that means it should be under NEC. Usually it applies to people who have just graduated from Bachelor's of Nursing. Average salary, $79,550 per annum, about $41 per hour. Entry level is 76 up to 97. I have other nurses, because I do their visas for employer-sponsored visas. They are earning more than those. All right, so registration pathways. Yeah.
These entry level, they're registered with APRA at that stage.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about. So I think that's got to be made very clear.
Yes.
There's a vast difference from a nurse jumping on a plane and arriving here.
Yes.
They've got quite a long process before they become registered with APRA.
Yeah, so these are for registered nurses here in Australia. Okay, so the registration pathways, it's either you complete a bachelor's or master's degree, and there's the OBA, and there's the Trans-Tasman Mutual Recognition. This is the easiest way to get registration if you have a New Zealand RN registration. So we have clients who are in that space as well. Coming from New Zealand, they can easily get offers from Australia and they come in under TSS 482 or ENS, or sometimes they go straight under the PR visa, which I'll be discussing later on. Study pathways, there's the Bachelor of Nursing of 1 year. In Victoria, that's Deakin University. In other states, there are other universities offering that. Some nurses would go for a 2-year Bachelor of Nursing so that they'll be eligible for a graduate visa. And some, those people who have finished year 12 in the Philippines and would like to do Bachelor of Nursing from scratch here, it will be a 3-year degree. There's also Master of Advanced Nursing, which is just 2 years. Some universities would offer it whereby on the first year you gain registration and then you just carry on. With master's degree, if you have a partner or a spouse, your spouse or partner can work full-time while you are on a student visa. So visa options while you're registering, because this is the usual question. Most people would come to Australia, they're registered nurse from the Philippines or other countries, and they will go for a student visa and study whatever course that they, that's related that they can get, which is cheap as well. So if it's not a Bachelor of Nursing, they might be doing aged care or mental health and community services, which used to be is okay. But with it's becoming more strict now, and there's a possibility that it can also be refused. So while registering, some people would go for other courses, and then they go for the OBA. Now other people would then go for the OBA through NCLEX. They'll do NCLEX in the Philippines or wherever they are, and then they would do the OSCE here in Australia via visitor visa. Now, on a visitor visa, of course, they cannot work. And also, some are also refused because they have to show that they're just genuine temporary entrants. There's another one, the internship visa, which most people don't know about. There's a stream for internship visa, that's for registration stream. This is for roles such as registered nurses, pharmacists, etc., who are required to have an internship or a workplace occupation training in Australia before they can gain their registration. So student visa, just quickly, of course, there's the genuine temporary entrant. You have to demonstrate that you don't have plans of living in Australia permanently. There's the English language requirements, depending on the university that you will go for, financial capacity, health and character requirement, and other visa requirements. So normally you can work up to 48 hours per fortnight. You may be eligible for a graduate visa after course completion. So graduate visa, you'll be eligible for that after finishing 2 years of a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, if it's in the nursing health field. There are other ways to get that, but in a different field. All right, so visitor visa, again, genuine temporary entrant. This is where the case officers would always look at, well, do you have ties in the Philippines? You know, how much is your salary? Do you have properties there? Are you coming back? That's where applications fail. Unfortunately, there are so many visa refusals happening for visitor visa and student visa for Philippine passport holders. There should be financial capacity. It's just how you will fund your travel, and there are other visa requirements. Again, on a visitor visa, you cannot work in Australia. Internship visa under the registration stream. So occupational training is required for registration. So you should be in a field whereby you need to get a registration to be able to work in Australia or in your home country. You should demonstrate that you're eligible for registration. So Raul will talk more about that. There's English language requirements as well. Just a functional English would be okay. Financial capacity, do you have capacity to fund your stay while you're doing your registration here in Australia? Health and character requirements and other requirements. So what are the work rights? What will be the work rights under the internship visa? This is the usual question. You can work up to part-time or full-time, depending on how your application is submitted and the requirement of your internship host. Now, there are visa options as well after registration, right? So once you become a registered nurse, then there are hosts of visas that you might be eligible for. If you have an employer, then you can be eligible for employer-sponsored visas. TSS 482 visa it's a temporary visa if you have at least 2 years of work experience after gaining your qualification. Full-time in the last 5 years. There's English requirements there as well. ENS 186 if you have at least 3 years of work experience in your field after your qualification, if you have your skills assessment as well. SESR is similar to the ENS 186, similar requirements, but this is an employer-sponsored visa in the regional area, whereby it's not a direct PR. You can apply for PR after 3 years of holding this visa. Now, if you don't have an employer, you can also apply for a permanent residency visa under the General Skilled Migration Stream, GSM, PRGSM. These are more commonly known. 189 visa, skilled independent. 119 state-sponsored visa. 491 if you are going for the designated regional area. For example, in Victoria, you'd like to live in Bendigo, Ballarat, Geelong, those areas. So just a quick overview of what it requires. There's a point system. Currently, the passing score is 65 points, depending on your age, work experience, marital status. There's the English requirement, skills assessment, definitely, and these are the different kinds of visas. TSS 482, again, you should have that sponsoring employer, the work experience, you should have the registration. On the TSS 482 visa, you don't need a skills assessment. And it doesn't have an age requirement, okay? So some nurses come here and they're over 45, they can still go for a TSS 482 visa, but they won't become permanent resident. And, or they can still be if they are under the DAMA program, which is up to 55 years old.
Say it again.
Yeah.
They cannot.
If they are 45 and above, they cannot
okay.
apply for permanent
Except
residency
for DAMA.
visa, except for DAMA.
Correct.
Yeah. ENS 186 direct entry, this is the best one. If you're a nurse, you got your registration, you have 3 years full-time work experience, you just have to get the skills assessment, the English language requirements. This is not points-based, but you also, of course, you have to have an employer, and you should be below 45. Yeah. So we've done so many of these, and it's a bit faster to get the grant if you're a registered nurse. The transition stream is the same PR visa, but you don't need a skills assessment, but you're coming from a TSS 482. Used to be, you have to be in a 482 for 3 years, working in the same occupation, in the same employer, but now, from the 25th of November, they've changed that to 2 years, so it's faster.
You know, it says that there is no skills assessment. Right?
Yeah.
But technically there is, because ANMAC already make an assessment before you.
No,
Yeah.
with a TSS 482 visa, you don't need a skills assessment
From
too.
ANMAC also.
No, yeah, you don't need it.
So if you have a registration, you don't need to go to ANMAC anymore.
For the TSS,
For the TSS.
yes, and then for the ENS transition stream. But direct entry and PR, they need to get that. Yeah. And this one, the 494, if your employer is in a regional area, the same, 3 years work experience, there's English, you should have registration, you should have skills assessment. All right. Oh, I was very fast.
Sorry, 3 years work experience.
After the qualification.
Yeah, after the qualification.
Yes, yes.
Not before.
Yes, so qualification, you know, because sometimes they've done Bachelor of Nursing in the Philippines.
Or registration.
After qualification.
So not registration.
Not registration.
Okay,
So if
it's
you've been a
still
nurse in the Philippines, you finished, you work in Saudi, in Qatar, that 3 years is counted.
Yeah.
And then you've done your Bachelor's of Nursing again here, then that's okay. You don't have to reset. Questions and answers. Do you have any few questions? This is just about visa, right? I know I'm fast, but was I very fast? Did you understand what I said? Okay.
Most of the time, mga graduates, newly graduates, they just go on volunteer work unpaid.
In the Philippines,
In the
yes,
Philippines.
yes.
So would that count as an
It will not
experience?
count as an experience because work experience should be paid
Paid.
in at least 20 hours a week. Because they have to present pay slips, you know, payment evidence. Yeah. All right. So if there's no more questions, we'll have more time for questions later on. Then next steps, you just have to do your own research to, you know, verify what I just said. If it's the registration, it's APRA. Skills assessment is ANMAC. Visa options, Department of Home Affairs. And if you want a one-on-one you know, like about your pathways, then book a consultation. That's the link. All right. Thank you. Maybe we can end on it.